Hey everybody, welcome to Scene to Screen, a show about the basics of screenwriting. I'm your host, writer-director Cory Reeder. Each week I gather a diverse panel of staff writers, showrunners, screenwriters, and producers currently working in the industry. We discuss the skills and craft of screenwriting while making sure that the conversation stays inclusive. So if you're a geek, a weeb, a nerd, a jock, a spaz, a dreamer, a lover, a fighter, of any gender, any race, any ability or orientation, this show is for you. And if you're not any of those things, guess what? As long as you want to write, this show is still for you. Definitely not one to keep the ASL on the DL. It's our interpreter for the deaf, Mona Jean. Hey, Mona Jean, how you doing? Let's see if I could do this right. Happy to see you. How'd I do? Good? All right. Each week, I have a sponsor for the show. It's not a real sponsor because nobody wants to pay me to do this. But this week, the sponsor is service. Being of service. Look, here's why I picked that. Because I've gotten a few messages from people asking how come I don't have a Patreon or a Venmo or something that I can accept payments for making this show. And look, I'm not crazy. I want to get paid. But I want to get paid for being a filmmaker. Being stuck inside sucks for us all. And the easiest way for me to get outside of this crazy head is to help other people. So I want to be of service. That's why I created this whole thing. So I suggest to you, if you're feeling down, if you're angry, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, scared, or just bored, go do something nice for somebody else, even a stranger. Be of service. It'll help you feel better about you. A friend of mine once told me, esteemable acts build self-esteem. So just don't tell anybody I said that. That'll be, my little gift to you today. And if you want to pay me some money, you can. Just hire me to direct your next movie or write it for you. And then, let's just keep on lifting each other up together. Awesome. So here we go. Fade in. Episode 5. The Empire Strikes Back. Just kidding. Although it did turn 40 this week, so congratulations, George Lucas. And happy birthday to Darth, Yoda, Boba, Lando, and all the rest of the characters we got to meet in Empire Strikes Back, and R.I.P. Luke's hand. Anyway, this week we are talking about the screenwriter's journey to make that first draft as good as it can be. We're going to be talking about notes, i.e. feedback. Good notes, bad notes, inspiring notes, painful notes, like finding out your dad's the baddest guy in the universe who just chopped your hand off. If we don't face the harsh realities of our early drafts, we're doomed. So sit back, relax, because I've got a great panel of writers who are going to discuss taking your script from Padawan to Jedi. That's it with the Star Wars stuff. I swear to God, I'm done. All right, let's introduce our panel. First up, we have Marc Mezvinsky. Come on in the room, Marc.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great. And I am just realizing very intensely how squeaky this chair is. So if you hear the squeaks, I apologize in advance.
Don't worry about it. Maybe there's a way you can use it to your advantage for a punchline during the show or something.
We'll see.
Anyway, Marc, I give our panelists 60 seconds to introduce themselves. Tell us about who you are, where you've been, what you've done. I'm going to start the timer for you, and away we go.
I'm Marc Muszynski. I'm a writer, comedian, and dabbler in a bunch of other things. I'm originally from Chicago, where I was doing improv and sketch stuff, and was lucky enough to have, first off, a lot of fun, 2, make a bunch of cool friends, and 3, we got to tour a little bit performing around the country. And then thanks to a web series we did and more of the touring, at some point I sort of realized oh, this isn't really a job though. And so I thought about what part of it was a job, and the writing and producing have always been my favorite things to do. And so it sort of dawned on me that I had to do that out here in Los Angeles. So I moved out here thinking all of that experience would be valuable, and nobody cared. And so I, as a 28-year-old, had to figure out a way to get into this industry. And on top of that, I'm visually impaired, so I can't drive. So it meant PA jobs, a lot of assistant gigs, page programs. Almost all of those require you to get people lunch. And most of those lunches are not within walking distance. But luckily I was able to I basically had to re-enroll in college at 28 to get a student internship. And through that was able to get an assistant job. And through that was able to meet people to eventually work in a writer's room as a writer's assistant, and finally work on my first show, along with a bunch of other, little writing gigs along the way.
Marc, that's your time, my friend.
I did it.
We'll get more into your background in a second, but next, I want to introduce Jamey Perry. Come on into the room. Hey, Jamey, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you. It's Friday.
Awesome. Yes, it is.
I guess I know it doesn't mean anything now. Every day is
not in quarantine.
Day.
Well, hey, I'm going to give you 60 seconds on the clock, and then you tell us about you, all right?
Absolutely.
On your mark, get set, go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamey Perry. I'm originally from Seattle, and I moved to Los Angeles shortly after college to become an actor. Instead, I became a paraplegic. But as I always tell people, the benefit of your whole life exploding before your eyes is that when you're ready to start rebuilding, you have a nice, clean canvas. And my canvas, I immediately began covering in TV spec pilots. And, a year after working as maybe the only PA in LA in a wheelchair, one of my scripts was discovered on the blacklist, not the official one, the .com one with no vowels. But that got me an agent at Gersh. And then I got hired as the writer's assistant on the current NBC show, Lincoln Rhyme Hunt for the Bone Collector, tragically named, but I'm hoping for a renewal for the second season. And I was, I got to co-write episode 109. And then
nice.
My timer.
That's your time.
I have to say one last thing.
Go for it.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention my one other great passion in life, which is WCMX, which is like skateboarding, but for wheelchairs. And if you want to know what that looks like, just go to YouTube and search Jamey Perry WCMX demo reel.
Yeah.
How much
I was
fun
watching some of those videos today. You're badass, girl.
Thank you.
Next up, Hilliard Guess. Come on in the room.
What's up?
Hey.
What's up? What's up?
How you doing, Hilliard?
I'm good. What's happening, everybody?
Just doing the do. Here's what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to set a timer for 60 seconds, and you tell us about Hilliard Guess. Ready,
Okay.
Set, go.
What's up, everybody? I'm Hilliard Guess. I am a writer, producer, director. I was born in Detroit, moved to New York, grew up outside of San Francisco in a place called Palo Alto. You guys have all heard of the movie Dangerous Minds. Well, that was where I grew up, in that neighborhood. So you can imagine how crazy it was. But I grew up in that time. I'm one of the original Afro punks of the 80s, and the whole mod punk rock scene. And everybody considered me like the Black Pee Wee Herman in my neighborhood because I rode around on vintage scooters and 60 suits and shit. Seriously,
Nice.
And I still do today. I have 6 scooters in my garage right now. Anyway, and so because of that, I've always been kind of the underdog. So when I started writing underdog stories. And I'm a former actor, former dancer, all that shit. I've produced over 28 projects. Recently was on a show called Deadly Class. I'm currently a showrunner on a small show. Can't tell you about it yet, but I'm out there trying to get it. Your little 1 minute time with 50 years of my life.
That's all right. There's bigger, funner things for us to talk about today.
Exactly.
And I'm sure we're going to learn more about you along the way, Hilliard. All right. Last but not least, please welcome Meghan Pleticha.
Hey, how's it going?
Amazing. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Right on. You ready to tell us about Meghan in 60 seconds?
I mean, as ready as I'll ever be, I guess. Let's find
All right. Here we go. On your mark, get set, do it.
All right. Hey guys, I am Meghan Pleticha. I am from the San Francisco Bay Area, born and raised.
Yeah.
I should have thought more about this before the timer started. After college, I moved to New York. So I went to school down in LA, and then I moved to New York because I thought I was going to work in magazine writing, the thriving print industry. I became a sex and dating writer and journalist, a sex journalist, which I don't think is what my parents had in mind when I told them I was going to be a writer. And then after fumbling around in my early 20s over there, I moved to LA longer ago than feels correct, but I guess it was a while ago now. And I got my start working as an assistant. I was a writer's assistant on Married on FX, and then I did a bunch of random pilots and stuff, and I ended up on Silicon Valley as the writer's assistant and script coordinator, where I was eventually staffed. And now I spend a lot of time writing plays, which seems especially dumb now, but I have faith that it'll make more sense when we can gather in rooms. Okay.
Well, there's probably some new ground to be covered of some sort of theater or playhouse thing over the internet, over Zoom. We'll see. But
that's exactly what I'm working on. Yep.
Nice. Well, let me get us launched into our topic here today. We're starting off today just as our writers have finished their first drafts. Let's say there's a little bit of a polish on it. So, they've spell checked it, maybe deleted a few extra parentheticals that crossed a directorial line. They've read through it enough times that they're confident that most of the kinks have been ironed out-ish. But what they need now is feedback. So where are they going to begin? Oh, hey, my timer is still got a mind of its own. My timer just timed me.
Your time.
Oh, damn it.
Go off perfectly at the end of your statement, though.
I planned it that way. I wish. No. Anyway, Marc, why don't you start us off? Before we even start talking about notes, people have to share their scripts. And there's a lot of new writers that when they have to send out their scripts, they fear that when they do it, someone's going to steal their idea. They'll be robbed of the 1, 3, 6, 12 months worth of work, blood, sweat, and tears they put into it. It's going to be gone forever. So my question for you, Marc, is how many scripts have you stolen and how much money have you made producing those movies?
All of them and all of it. I think what's so funny about it is the only thing that if writing an amazing script is like one of the hardest things you can do, the next hardest thing is getting anybody to read it.
Yeah, not even to make it.
Or, yeah, and make it maybe even harder than both of them. And so it's I've heard stories of people who've uploaded something to the blacklist and then they noticed that someone else changed the title and re-uploaded the same thing. But I have yet to hear of an actual theft situation. And I think the reason is because the execution is the thing that they're actually paying for. There's a million ideas. And, you see it if you're in a writer's room, people are often on the same page about stuff. You definitely feel it when you go out pitching projects because half the rejections you get are oh, we already have that in development. And so there's just, ideas are amorphous. Execution is very concrete. And so I understand the fear. If you're afraid of it, register your script with the Guild and then go about your merry way.
Which is something that you could do pretty easily online. You just go to the WGA West website, and I would assume that maybe WGA does this too. Yeah.
Or copyright is even something you can do online. If you feel the need for that security, go for it.
Yeah. One last question, then we'll move on to actual note talking. As professional writers and have seen plenty of scripts come your way, what is your impression of, I've had people that have never had anything produced say hey, will you sign an NDA before I send this to you? And the second thing is they'll say, like the screenplay, when it arrives, will like have my name plastered on it, or will say like, do not copy, do not share. This is kind of to any of you guys. Thoughts on overprotective?
Overkill is my thought, but but don't be surprised if someone asks you to sign a release saying that you won't sue the writer. Like, because if I've written a script, let's say I'm writing, I don't know, an alien story about a purple alien, and your script that you give me to give you notes happens to have purple aliens in it, I'm now at risk of you suing me.
True.
So what's much more common is the person that you are giving the script to, if you don't know them well, which I'm sure we'll get into it, but I'd recommend giving it to people you know first. But if you don't know them well, it's much more likely they would have you sign a release saying you're not going to sue them for stealing your ideas than the other way around.
In
Go
my
ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't have, exactly what Marc and Meghan were both saying, that it's if the person you're handing your script to has any sway in the industry or any money, they're going to want the liability cover. I mean, what am I trying to say? Yeah. They're going to want you to sign the thing that says you won't sue them if something comes out of their studio later that sounds like yours.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, to piggyback off of what both of them are saying, is you got to look at it like this to take it even one step further. Is we all have been reading scripts for years. You've already given away to me that you haven't been following the rules when you send all the. I already know you're an amateur. Soon as you start putting copyright and all these registered by the WJ, you're worried. I'm like, oh, this is their first script. You know what I mean? So you need to learn what the rules are and follow those rules so you don't have to worry about people stealing your ideas and all that other stuff. So believe me, even on the level that I'm at, where I'm, actually pitching real shows, I still have to sign an NDA with whatever the companies are. Yeah. Am I worried about it? No.
And I would say, just when you're a young writer and you're just trying to get a foot in the door, you want more people rather than fewer people reading your stuff. And honestly, again, like I'm in TV, so if you're hired on a TV show, it will become apparent very quickly that you did not write what you submitted as your sample, and you'll get fired. Right. Whereas, so I tend to not worry about it so much, because I say, I'm very zen about it. I'm like, well, I'm going to put what I put out into the world, and I'm not a one-shot wonder, that I can actually replicate this over and over and over again. That's actually how I prove that I'm worthy of showing up in the room or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see, Meghan. So moving on, and we're actually going to get into some notes now, ish. Before you send out your first draft for notes, do you have any sort of like litmus test or process that you run a script through, just to like a last chance to make sure there's no lingering issues that you might have missed?
Well, I mean, the thing is, what is a first draft? What is a draft of the script? Usually by the time I'm sending it out, it's gone through several drafts that I've rewritten. So generally when I'm sending it out, I have, as I'm writing it or rewriting it, I've developed a checklist of like, hey, this character doesn't make any sense. This plot hole is here. So before I send it out, I'm making sure I've fixed the problems that I found. And then generally I will go through and do a character voice pass, which I also use as an opportunity to punch up any jokes I can. And then I will also do a hardcore proof read of it. I worked as a script coordinator, so I'm pretty anal about my typos. And I also am usually, it depends who I'm sending it to. If I'm sending it to close friends where I want a lot of story and creative feedback, I will not worry about cutting it down to tight pages, because I want them to see all my ideas. If I'm sending it to, say, like my manager to send out to people, I will try to get it as short as I humanly can, because there's just a good thing that happens when someone gets your script to read. They will always check how many pages it is. And if they can flip to the end and it's shorter than they think it's going to be, they are going to be so happy when they start reading your script. And that's what you want. You want them to start happy. So I'll make sure it's short and then proofread the hell out of it.
Truly the worst feeling in the world is when you're asked to read something, especially like I mostly am reading comedy pilots, and then I find out someone sent me a feature. And I'm like, oh God.
Well, can I say something to that just really quick?
Yeah.
Whenever you send a script to anybody, and I told you guys offline how many scripts I've read in the last 2 months, right? Always send the log line and the PDF of the script. Don't just send me the script. People just send me the script going, oh, we talked about it earlier. I'm like, bitch, I had 5 other people I talked to today. You know what I mean? So don't forget that. So remember to include both of them so I could get it back in my head. Oh, it's that script, and be excited about wanting to read it.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Really quick, and I don't want to get belabored on. I mean, I guess this kind of gets to notes, but Meghan, you said one thing about like before you send it out to managers or basically the industry people that can production greenlight something. You try to make it as small as possible. When you say that, what are you cutting?
Well, I mean,
The fat.
again, I'm a script coordinator, so I know all the tricks. But the thing I should be cutting, I've got to adjust some lines.
You're not talking about fudging margins, are you?
No,
I would
no
never fudge. I've never fudged margins, but I would never fudge margins.
You know how to.
Yeah, I know how to.
I've seen it on TV.
I have fudged individual line dialogues when they're not breaking where I want them to in a dialogue box. But what I'm really cutting is any fat at all, anything that seems like a double beat. I make sure if there is exposition in there that it's actually needed to understand the story. It includes cutting jokes that I'm having to face just aren't that funny. It's better to have like less jokes that are all really, really funny than like a couple jokes that are like, I don't know if that makes sense. And then some of the cheats are you're cutting extra action lines that you don't need, extra description, which is a cheat in that if it was a produced script, that doesn't change the length of pages you're shooting really, but for reading and notes and feedback purposes, if you're cutting those action lines, you're making the reader read less, which we all love doing. We all love reading less.
True.
Your eyes should go down, not across.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a good line.
well, that's piggybacking off of that, a showrunner I love and who is an awesome resource for those of you guys out there. If you're on Twitter, follow @Jeff Lieber. He's an amazing showrunner. He's a very humane guy. He's funny, and he got asked that question recently, and he said the question was something like, what's the first indication that someone's an amateur when when you're reading a script? And he said, just too much description. And so you in your mind, and I want to see what I'm writing. So my first draft is always long, and I will spend a paragraph describing this grandfather clock or whatever. But then when I go through, it's a grandfather clock. I just need to know what it looks like and if there's something unusual about it, right? But that TV is a really spare medium, and once you get to production and final draft, production drafts of things, it's short.
Yeah.
If you can say something in fewer words, do it.
Well, and for what it's worth, because in TV production, you'll have a production meeting where everyone sits around a table, and if anyone is like, wait, what kind of grandfather clock?
Exactly.
We'll have a moment to explain what kind of grandfather clock.
That's what a production designer is for. Well, let's before we get too big and we get into like writers' rooms and stuff like that. I would imagine a lot of people that are watching this show they're at home. They're maybe writing their first or their second screenplay, and they're just trying to absorb more information, more knowledge that you guys have had. So in a writer's room, you could be bouncing ideas off of people. And so the note process is almost symbiotic with your writing process. But if someone is alone and they finish their draft and they've put a little bit of polish on it, and their time that they want to go and start receiving feedback because they know, hopefully, that it can be better. Marc, from that sort of perspective, who are the first people that you want to get feedback from? Like, do you have a sort of a hierarchy? How do you release the Kraken to the people and get their feedback for you to work on future drafts?
I always feel like, at least for me, the most successful first rounds of feedback almost always come from like my favorite writers who are my peers. So oftentimes, like if you're lucky enough to have a writers group or know enough other writers that it can function that way, that's where they come from. It's a group of people, they're your peers, you're all invested in each other's careers, and you're all actively pursuing the same thing, and you're around the same level. So you're just, I don't know, there's sort of like a natural evolution. And I think for some reason that it's the perfect combo of like knowledgeable people and safe people, because they know the exact struggle you're going through trying to get better at writing. And they want to help you because they would also want to be helped that same way.
Yeah. I would also add, like one thing I do is I have a couple friends who aren't in the industry, and they're just cheerleaders. So no matter what, like, swill I send them, they're like, you're amazing. That kind of buffers the like actual critique that comes from people who are more knowledgeable.
Well, I'm just going to add that, just piggybacking off what both of you guys are saying. I mean, I have a whole slew of people who read my scripts depending on what it is, and also depending on what genre it is, because I write a lot of different things. What I found is there are three people in my life that I am the most worried when they read it. Right? And those are the people you really want to read your scripts, because they're not gonna play, right? So you've already filtered out and gotten the script to where you wanted it. So maybe by version 3 or 4 is when you get it to them. And guess who they are? My husband, my sister, and my producing partner, who also understands this just like we do. Yeah. But my husband is a literal person. So that's a very important thing. If they get it and they're literal, then that makes sense. My sister is part of Oprah's book club, so she's really well read, but she's used to reading narratives, right? But if she understands the story, that's what I'm looking for. My producing partner is a huge casting director, so she understands character and story. So you find those different people and why, and if you nail them, then I feel comfortable that anybody can read it after those people.
Do you run it through some other people?
Oh, yeah,
and then save those three are like they're the last ones before it goes to like an agent or manager. Before my agent or
my manager reads it, it goes to them.
So there is kind of a hierarchy. Like maybe like Jamey said, you start off with the cheerleaders, then you go to your peers, and then you buckle down and you give it to the people that give you the real talk and will tell you where shit's falling off the wagon.
But I will say I have a producer that I have worked with on a couple other projects, and he's become one of my best friends. And if you can form a relationship like that, where you know each other and you work together over years on different projects. And so his feedback is always super valuable to me, not only because he is very much in the industry and he knows what's selling, but also he's kind and he knows at this point how I need to receive notes, right? Like followed, 5 compliments, 1 note, 5 compliments. 1 note. Can you tell I'm sensitive?
Let's see, Hilliard, I got a question for you, but before we do that, I just want to talk to everybody. We got some people watching online live right now. There's a comment bar over to the side. If you guys want to leave comments or questions for our panel, you can go ahead and start to type those in now. I try to save the last 15 or so minutes to be able to answer your guys' questions. So go ahead and pop any questions you have for the panel in there. Hilliard, do you have anything specific that you're looking for in early notes?
In early notes, yes. Do you get it? Does this make sense? I mean, that's just, you have to look at it simply,
It's huge.
A story should be simple, You should totally get the story. So I'm really looking at, did you get it? Did you get bumped anywhere? Did it move you? Whenever I go to see a movie and I come out with tears or laughter, I turn to my husband and I go, that's why I write. I want that. I want to feel that moment. So what I'm hoping for is that you felt something somewhere. And usually I've been blessed. I've learned, especially through my producing partner who understands a lot about character and story and how to sell it to stars. It's taught me how to look at how to write scripts and grab the attention of a big name to want to get in it. They want to play things that they haven't played before. How to pump up those moments so when you read them, it feels like a trailer. You know what I mean? Little things like that I've learned. So I'm looking to see, did you feel the trailer moments that I gave you? And did it move you? And, you know what I mean? So whatever, even if it's funny, did it move you in whatever it was I was trying to do? So.
When you guys send stuff out, any of you, when you send stuff out, maybe to your peers or definitely to people who may not be in the industry, do you have particular questions? Because I know I found when I just send my script and I say, tell me what you think, man, there's a whole, it can create a shitstorm. Like people will like, oh, well, you should do this with this character. They think that I'm asking them to help me rewrite, or sometimes, and this, I hate this note, they'll be like, it's great.
I mean, I think the trick is it's always important to remember that when you send your work to people and you ask for what they think, they're going to tell you what they think.
Yeah.
So
I would rephrase that.
They're going to tell you like what they would change about it because you've asked them for feedback to make it better. I think what's really helpful for me, at least, and it takes time, is getting feedback from a variety of people at a variety of stages in the script. And you'll start to learn what is helpful for you specifically and what isn't helpful for you specifically. Right. You'll also, if you give it to multiple people, you'll start to see a consensus. Everyone keeps pitching me different things on this same page. I don't like any of the things they're pitching me, but maybe there's something I need to change about this plot. Right. There was something else I was going to say, but that's enough of my brilliance for now.
All right. Hey, Jamey, like, speaking of like bad notes, because some notes can be bad, they can be used.
Jamey, speaking of bad notes.
That's not what I meant. But no, they can be contradictory or confusing. So on bad notes, are there any particular, just like, what's a bad note? What kind of notes do you hate getting?
Oh, I mean, like, well, there's the classic, like, that person's unlikable. Because I don't need you to like them. I just need you to understand their motivations and see a little bit of yourself in them. And let's see, what other bad notes? I don't know. Jump in, you guys, if you think like
anybody got any pet peeves?
I was just gonna say, I would just don't say I didn't like this without giving me a reason why. You know what I mean? That's the key. Like, and I give lots of people notes. If I don't have an answer, I will simply say, okay, around page 14, there's this thing you did. I didn't quite get why she went to the left instead of the right. I don't have the answer for you yet, but I think you should kind of like what Meghan was saying. You need to reevaluate that. There's something there. I don't know what it is, but I got bumped. I read it twice and I still was bumped. I don't have the answer for you, but look, and usually they go back and go, oh, I didn't put the hat on her. I said she had a hat on. It's something simple. It might be something small.
There was a sign that said go to the left.
You know what I mean? Whatever, But usually you just miss something because you trimmed something somewhere when you were doing your, your pass on it somewhere. Yeah. It's just a ghost. A ghost is in there somewhere, All
right. Got to clear out, do a little bit of ghost busting.
I also feel like you'll start to notice in different readers, in general, there's like kind of two buckets I've found. Some that you'll get people who are taking what you're doing at face value and trying to make it the best it can be. Right. Or you'll find people who look at the concept that you're getting at, completely ignore what you've necessarily done, and they'll give you notes that are like, what if this character was a robot? It's sort of like, are they going to help you drill, or are they going to tell you to drill in a different place to find the gold?
Yeah.
And both of those can be valuable. Sometimes you're drilling in the wrong place, but sometimes you're drilling in a great place and everyone's like telling you where they would drill.
So Marc, so moving off of bad notes and good notes, like rather than asking like what kind of notes do you like to get?
Yeah.
What kind of notes do you give when you're reading someone else's script? Like, do you have a certain mindset of like, hey, I mean, there's a lot of layers that we have to go through while we're interpreting character and structure and settings, whether jokes have a good punchline and payoff, whether the whole thing has a payoff. But is there a certain sort of like, do you try to come at things from a certain perspective for giving notes to people?
I mean, I guess I try to consider the context that I'm getting the script in. So like, for example, if it's from a friend whose writing I've read a lot and I love, and I know that they're gonna like make it funny, they just may not have added all the jokes yet, for example, then I just like, don't worry about that kind of stuff. And then also the context of like where it is in the process. You know, sometimes people will send you something and they'll literally say like, yeah, I'm about to send this to the producer. My deadline is tomorrow. Do you have any like line tweaks? You know, like you just know that they can't do a lot. And so I guess for me, you know, based on the sponsor of this program, I just try to be of service in the best way. But I also...
You get points for the callback. Points for the callback.
I guess I squeaked it in there. Of course, when I do it, it doesn't work. But the other problem I have, and I don't, maybe this is something I guess to ask my writer friends, but I get really excited when I read things I like, and so then I almost always will offer like, hey, if you want to, you know, like if you have any questions about the stuff I'm sending or whatever, like I'm happy to talk on the phone, or you know, go back and forth via email. And whenever people take me up on that, I end up giving better notes than I would have otherwise, because they're asking me to look at it again. And whether it's on the phone in conversation or even just writing a more thoughtful version of the original note, I can help them better because they're just saying like, yeah, I want more from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say Marc gives great fucking notes. Because he does exactly what he's saying. I think is such a great attitude to have, or technique, which is like take the context of how you're receiving it. And I think that also is how you should take the notes. Just you talking about, I don't know if that was a read on my joke writing, Marc, but I definitely have learned.
I trust it'll get there.
Definitely learned that sometimes the scripts aren't that funny, but you know that like they're really good. But I definitely have learned for me personally, for example, after years of getting feedback, usually there's a point where I will get the note, oh, have you punched this up yet? Are there jokes in here? Right. And that used to make me feel crappy because I was like, I'm a comedy writer. I'm a failure. I failed at the thing I was trying to do. But now that I've been through the process enough, I know that when I'm getting that note, it means that the story is working. Because the note they're not giving me is, I didn't get why she went left or right. The note they're giving me is, oh, okay, so have you done a punch up? Which means it all makes sense. So sometimes when you get those negative notes, I think it's also important to think about if you're not getting negative notes, or I should say constructive notes on a different element in the script, that usually means that is working. And you can, if you're not sure, you can always say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna add some jokes, I promise, but does the story work for you? You can always follow up like that.
I was just gonna say, just to piggyback off of that, is that I'm really, really nice when I read scripts. So when I decide to sit down and read somebody's script, because I think there's an art to giving script. I think there's an art to taking a script, to taking the notes, you know, to giving notes and taking notes. And so for me, I usually ask people, do you want me to give you notes that you want to be excited about? Or do you want me to give you real notes And there's a reason for that, because most of us, like you said, our egos are in the way, and it really is. We all want people to read our scripts and go, oh my God, it was amazing. We all want that, but not everybody's ready for you to go, it's probably a page one. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear that ever, but I'm the type of person, if I say I'm going to read your script, I will literally read the script and I will go through it page by page and give you page by page notes.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point there, Hilliard, right. Which is that the one question that I ask whenever anybody asks me to read is I say, what do you want? Like, what kind of notes do you want? Because some people want, like print out the script, write notes in the margin, right. Give me everything that you have. And some people just say, give it a read. Does it make sense? And man, I've done the print it out and give the notes and the margins and all of that. And someone will be like, oh man, I just wanted to know if you liked it or not. And I'm like, I fucking spent 8 hours on this, when I could have read it in an hour and a half and just been like, oh, it's great. Or it got flat in the middle.
Yeah, I can't give notes
like that.
Didn't
land, whatever.
I can't do that. I gotta give you notes.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, Hilliard, so eventually all of the writers are going to be getting notes from different people, whether it's family members and friends or other peer writers. It's a lot of people, but you get a lot of different people in your job where you're having to deal with people that are giving you notes that are producers or studio executives or directors. And I'm sure all of them could sometimes be giving you conflicting notes. So how do you interpret that? How do you deal when multiple people are giving you different notes that may not coincide or even conflict each other? How do you balance that without sacrificing story or people pleasing the person highest up the chain?
Well, Craig Mazin, I know you listen to him all the time. He always says it's always about the story. The story's first, right? The characters, the story's first. So your job as a writer is to make sure you keep the story going exactly the way that everybody planned it to be. Sometimes you get a job and you're the hired writer on an assignment, and you come in the room and there's 6 other, execs, maybe the director, the EPs or whatever, and they love your take on it, and you are the voice of the story, right? But everybody is sitting at the table and they all have a job to you know what I mean? So they all want to make sure that they have something to say, and even if it's totally against what everybody else has agreed to. So what I tend to do, for example, there was something in a project I was just working on where one of the producers thought we should bring in the CIA early. And I'm like, yeah, this is based on a true story. The CIA didn't come in for another 5 or 6 years. So are we doing this story or are we doing the later story? Oh, we're doing the earlier story. I said, so then that's season 3, right? And he was like, oh yeah. And I was like, yeah. So you have, it's always about the story. So we're going to get to that, eventually. It's just not time yet. I heard your note, I'm telling you that, but I'm just letting you know. So anytime you're in those situations, for me, if it goes back to the story that we all agree to, then you do have an argument without it being an argument. It's like, oh, well, I like that, but have you thought about, does that really work? Because we all agreed that that's season 3, you know what I mean? Unless you guys want to push it forward, you know what I mean? So no, we don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, good. I said it in front of everybody, you know what I mean? So that happens a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anybody else have skillful ways of interpreting conflicting notes?
I don't know if I have a skillful way of interpreting them, but I have a way that I think about applying them, which is that just your job in any given moment is to get your project to the next point. So if you're doing a producer pass and then and it's, but you're trying to get it to the studio, your job is to get it past the producers in the best shape you can. Yep. And so obviously you might not like what the producers are saying. You might even think that the studio is going to hate what the producers are saying. Mm-hmm. But the studio's never going to see it unless it's like a video game. Like you got to defeat this level before you get to the next level.
Yeah.
And you're going to have lots of time to reset it if needs be. And sometimes you're just going to get trapped and it won't be your fault. And the only thing that you'll have to rely on is like, especially if you're the creator of the show or the movie or whatever, is just like your confidence in the story that you're telling. And if you have that to fall back on, you can usually use that to navigate whatever waters you're in.
Yeah.
There is a writer, and I wish I could remember who it was. They were on Ben Blacker's writers panel. Oh shoot, who was it? But they were saying their trick is that they just do whatever they were going to do anyways, and then they pick a specific thing and tell the exec or the producer, hey, that note you said, that's why I changed this specific thing that I was going to change anyways. But it's like a lot of times when someone's giving a note, they just want to be heard. And if you can understand where they're coming from, or, I mean, it's the old phrase, the note behind the note. If you know what that is and you can address that, they just want to know that you're not blowing them off usually.
Yeah, yeah.
And genuinely, they usually want the story to be better.
Yes, usually.
In almost all cases. Like it's their job. There's in a lot of ways, they're the most experienced script readers in the world. They do it all day long. It's the entirety of their bread and butter. And usually it's like if it's a producer or a studio or whatever, like, or even a network, like those executives, their reputation is tied to the success of their shows in some way. So they genuinely want to make them better in their eyes.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would offer this up too, is that you always have your previous drafts. So if you're making changes to appease the producer or the studio, and then you get to set and the director's like, well, this is stupid. And you could be like, well, this is how it originally was. And maybe they'll say, I love that. Let's do that.
I say don't say how it originally was. Say like, oh, well, hey, what if we did this other idea I had?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Just came up with this.
Yeah.
In your pocket.
I was just
You
gonna
hand
say
it
that-
over and the director's like, why does it say draft one? And you're like, whoa.
By the way, Cory, that might happen, but it wouldn't happen the other way you were saying, where the director would be like, well, what's this? You know what I mean? There's just too many meetings all set up before we get to that. It would never happen.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't. Yeah.
Let's see. So this is my obligatory sort of inclusion question that I always try to wrestle in here. So the fun thing about writing in general is that we get to use our imagination, and that's kind of where our writer's voice can be defined from. However creative we are, gives us our voice and can just it provides sort of like the thrill of writing. But sometimes our imagination can take us out of our depth. So for example, me being a cis white dude, if I start writing about race or sexual orientation, I may not know about that. But this sorts of thing can also happen in episodics and sitcoms and whatnot, where you have to write about things that are in the legal world or the medical field, or computer programming for Megan, or in Lincoln Rhyme, you've got to know all about forensics and stuff like that. So how are these sorts of things handled when you know this is an element that you want to put in your story? Do you seek out specific readers that is like, look, I know this person is a forensic specialist. I'm going to hunt one down, or I'm going to send this to a cop and make sure this fits in cop protocol, or I have to search out a lawyer. How do you guys kind of have those things get sussed out without it being just
jump in on
science
this?
fiction?
I mean, think about it like this. If you're writing outside of your world that you normally know, the one thing you first do is you go and do research, right? So if you've done your due diligence in whatever the thing is, whatever the world is, then you should pretty much start to get to know the world. The problem is people just have an idea and they think they can write it, and they spent no time there. They haven't had the conversations. They haven't interviewed people. They haven't done anything. And that's what I was saying before offline, is what's usually missing is nuance, right? And nuance is language, nuance is style, nuance is culture, nuance is all these things. So whenever any of us who have any disability or it's about your race or your whatever you are, what we usually see as missing is the nuance. Like we would go, oh, well, I would never do that. Oh, a Black person would never do this thing. You know what I mean? Or, somebody who's in a wheelchair, it's not easy for them to go down the ramp and do this thing. They probably couldn't hop it the way that they did. Whatever it is, we would see.
You've obviously never seen Jamey do WCMX, man.
I was just spitballing.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm just giving you a hard time because I've seen her do bunny hops and all sorts of crazy shit.
She's in a certain kind of chair, though. I bet. Right?
Indeed. No, you're right. Your point.
That's all I'm saying is they would put them in a regular chair and have them do all the tricks that they couldn't really do.
Not even a regular chair. They'll put them in a hospital chair.
Exactly. So anyway, go ahead.
So for me, I think there's a qualitative difference between writing, a cop if you're not a cop, as opposed to like writing a trans person if you're not trans. So because it's sort of, I guess it sort of neatly falls into like protected class territory, like, race, disability, the other ones. No, but so because, sometimes I speak with friends who aren't in the industry, disabled friends who aren't in the industry, and they're like, yeah, it's not perfect, but like, isn't it great that they're doing it? Like, isn't it great to even just see that on television? And my personal opinion is no, it's not great. As a disabled writer, I don't want to watch my show. I don't want to watch my stories, even in the rare instance that they get it right. I don't want the story to be told. I want to tell it. And I think sometimes when people go, hey, what's selling right now? Disabled people shows.
Right.
They actually suck all the oxygen out of what would have been the prime time for a marginalized writer to finally get their shit read. And so there are plenty of bigwigs who make their living telling other people's stories, and without any names. But
can I piggyback one little thing off of that? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is the other problem with that though is that you become the one Black person, the one female, the one trans person, the one queer person, whatever it is in the room. So the room who's full of these white cis guys over 50, and let's generalize, and you have that one trans writer in your room. Shut up, Cory. You have the one person in the room. Well, they can still be overpowered by one vote.
Yeah, one is a token. Yeah,
exactly. I've seen it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've been in the room and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no Asian people in here to even talk about this. So me as the person of color has to step in and say something. You know what I mean?
Especially if they're lower level, that can be tricky because you don't want to tell your boss they're racist or whatever. Like it's a lot. Like that's something you want to get into.
Generally, not.
Yeah. By the way, you're being a real dick right now. Like
makes it hard to come back for season 2.
I actually have had this experience because the show that I work on, Lincoln Rhyme Hunt for the Bone Collector, features a quadriplegic main character, and I was the only disabled person in the room.
Right.
So my bosses were incredible people. And so because I went into that job going, I was like, nope, you don't say anything. You keep your mouth shut. Like it's not, it's not your place to give an opinion. When you're a showrunner, then you can, hold forth. But my bosses actually came to me and said, hey, we don't want to make it awkward. If you feel comfortable, if you see something that we're doing wrong and you feel comfortable, you're always welcome to jump in. I know people who feel like there was one of our assistants was Indian, and she talked about how she hated it when all eyes turned to her, and she's like, I can't speak for a billion people.
Exactly.
But I'm like, I can speak for disabled people.
I'm with you. I say be the person in the room who has the voice. People will respect it.
Well, and not every disabled person feels passionately about the disability right movement. movement, right? Or in all these other things, but I feel passionate about it. And so I was able to give a ton of feedback to my bosses, you know, about, hey, that wouldn't happen. And I always tried to be, I mean, I think my end of the bargain is that I need to be respectful with the way I come through. But they were incredibly open to hearing, and it has been so gratifying to see so much of so many of my ideas and so many of my like little critiques and tweaks made it into the end result of the show. The show would be very different if I had not been there. And so
that's what I'm saying, is just like we have the same issue with the note about like, I don't know what, like, I don't like this. It's the same thing with you saying, well, disability people wouldn't do that thing. But if you don't have, here's what they would do, fucking shut your mouth.
Yeah, solutions.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Marc,
Yeah.
let's we'll lighten this up a little bit. How's the best way to go in and punch up a script for funny?
Oh.
Yeah, that's an easy question.
Yeah.
Tail end here.
That's why I gave it to Marc, Megan, because he already had a comment on your comedy writing earlier.
I love Megan's comedy writing is honestly some of the best comedy writing that I've ever read. And I think my favorite part of it is that while there are lots of jokes, the jokes are coming from different places. Like they could come from character, from setting, from the dialogue. Like it's like a rainbow of comedy. It's wonderful.
I completely kid, because I doubt that anybody would have her on Silicon Valley if she was not funny.
I mean, you'd be surprised. No, just joking.
But then there's always the stereotype of like drama writers are funny and light and in person, and then comedy writers are very dark in person. And
Well, but that's because that's something that like I have a comedy feature, and it's one of those things where I can go through, and there's sometimes every time I read through it, I laugh. I'm like, God, that's good. Yeah. And there's some other ones where I'm like, oh, that'll land like the first time through. And I'm not really sure, like, do I have to go through and punch everything up to be 100? You know, like, so when you're going through and you're doing passes like that, like, how do you negotiate that?
I think it's like a question of the tone that you're aiming for. Like if you want it to be a broadcast comedy, there's like a certain amount of jokes and like a sharpness of jokes that medium sort of feels like it wants. And it's a tough thing. It's like you can read a script and count the jokes or whatever, but I think it's just an experience situation that I wish I had more experience and was better at every single time I go to do it. But honestly, the thing that helped me the most was doing stand-up, because all it is, and I'm not a big character person when I do stand-up. So it's literally, and the only reason I do it is because I feel like I can perform the exact minimum amount to say a joke. Like, people might laugh at it. But there's nothing that will let you know what's funny and what isn't faster than standing in front of a bunch of people who aren't laughing at you.
Yeah.
And so like you can't help but internalize that, because it just speaks to the most terrified parts of your ego. And so you get to bring that to the page. All that emotional scarring turns out to be helpful.
Most of comedy is bringing your emotional scarring to the page.
But it's and also a lot of comedies don't have a lot of jokes, you know, like punching up is, I don't know, like there's shows that I love that are ostensibly comedies and there's maybe like 5 jokes in them, like hard punch up type jokes.
Megan, since Silicon Valley is obviously a comedy,
I mean,
obviously
generous, I guess.
But was there, I guess the question is, for something like that got a good run because it was successful doing what it did, was that sort of stuff on the page? Or is there certain things where you're just like, look, I know they're gonna come up with something better on set? I hate questions like that because I want to respect the writer's process, but
No. Well, I'd say there's two parts because I don't think anyone was phoning it in. You know what I mean? But I think the production process is a separate, complete creative process. So I always kind of conceptualize it as you get the ball as far down the field as you can, and in the best circumstances, you feel like you scored your touchdown. You got it. It's all working. And then you go into production and you find out there's another field in front of you. So the comedy is always on the page. I think I've talked to some writers, comedy writers who don't feel the same way, but I always believe like it should be funny on the page. That said, you know, when you have a cast like you did on Silicon Valley, who are all very talented comedians in their own right, they are going to elevate what is already written. And a lot of times, you know, they would bring improvs and stuff on set that's funnier than what a room of writers came up with. So I think it's both. You know, you don't, and because you don't get that improv unless the foundation is there, you know, and I think, especially for something like Silicon Valley, that's that can be so plot driven. You know, improv doesn't work when you have to tell the story in 30 minutes and you need to get all the story points out. So it's really collaboration. I think my personal opinion is that's one of the things that made that show so successful is it was, you know, both sides building it up. Nice. There are times when you know you have a very talented comedic actor and you might not be sure if something's going to work and you know they can sell it for you, but I don't think even then it should still be funny to you should still think it's a good joke. That makes sense. So it's both sides really.
So my last question, and then we'll get on to a couple audience questions here, is Jamey, how do you know when a script is done? And by I mean done. I mean like
my friend.
I mean like when is it done to give it to like the your manager or your agent, the people that are going to have to go out and try and sell this? I know that they're probably going to give you notes too, and you'll have to serve them. But at what point are you just like?
Yeah. So I think that, I mean, I think the first thing it's like I owe it to every baby writer. I mean, I'm still a baby writer myself, but I owe it to everyone to say, there will be notes. There will always be more notes. I mean, you'll be on set rewriting shit they're going to film in an hour. And so if you go into it thinking, okay, I'm going to do a few rounds of notes and then I'll have a perfect script and I'll never open it again. I'll never touch it again. That's just not reality, particularly once you're actually working. There will always be a note. So just, but I would say like, and it's also different, right, Cory? So if you're writing a script for production on a running television show, that's different from when you know that's done versus when you know your spec script is done. And in a lot of ways, knowing when your spec script is done is harder, right? And so for me, it's when my enthusiasm runs out for a project, you know, it's where it's not fresh and exciting anymore. And also I try to hold any sort of spec stuff real lightly because I have gotten, you know, hard notes on stuff that has then gone on to get me 10 meetings, you know? So it's, I would say selling something is different than just wanting to put something in your portfolio. So then like, if you want to start writing, you know, if you're a drama writer and you want to start writing comedy, and so you're writing a comedy script and you're going to keep trying to make that the funniest you can make it. And you're actually not going to worry about how much is this going to cost to shoot, right? That's really fun to do. But, so for me, it's about what kind of script it is. And if I start to lose enthusiasm for it and I start to get excited about some other idea, then I'll move on. It doesn't have to be perfect to get you a job.
That's a great line.
Some things are just samples.
Yeah.
Actually, most of your scripts are just samples.
Yeah.
Until they get made.
No, that's the difference between people who work all the time and people who want to just, focus on, oh, I'm gonna write this to sell it. Most of us know it's just a sample.
True.
It's true.
And when you're an early writer, it's like, this is your baby. And that's why you want everyone to sign an NDA and stuff. And then over realize you have a lot of babies.
Yeah, we gotta make more babies.
Okay, we got a couple questions and then we'll wrap things up really quick. Jen asks, this is a big one. If your script is a page 1 rewrite, where do you begin?
I usually cry a little. That's
with tears. You begin with tears.
Yeah.
I think you have to listen to what the note was. If I tell you it's a page 1 rewrite, it's because the complete story and characters didn't work. I didn't buy anything. I wasn't moved by anything. So I'm usually saying, you know how you wrote the story about the guy and the girl who come together? We've seen it 900 times and I wasn't moved. What if it was about this and you still keep that thing there where it takes place in Seattle, but now it's between these type of characters? You know what I mean? Instead of it being about these young couple, what if it was an older couple? Whatever it is, that's how you kind of start over for me. It's just a simple through line of the thing you already started, but maybe it's a twist on it.
Well, just going off of something that Meghan said, where she wants to cry, which that's immediately the first thing I do upon getting notes. I say, thank you so much. And I hang up and I just cry. But the other thing too, is give it a minute. Give it a minute. Because initially you think, and you've worked so hard on this, you've polished it to within an inch of its life. It's as good as you can get it. And you think it's might be the most scintillating thing anyone's ever written. You might be about to be on the verge of like being the best writer ever. And then you get notes back and you think, so it's okay to be like mad at the note giver. You don't express that to them, but it's okay to be like, well, they're stupid anyway. It's okay to cry. It's okay to take a beat, because my experience is the hardest notes I got after a month, I was like, God damn it, they're right.
Yeah, it's true. So true.
The percentage of notes that are actually bad notes compared to the percentage of notes that I call bad notes is very different. Like immediately if I'm hearing that. But
that's hilarious.
But I also feel like
that should be a
like
t-shirt.
if you get a note that's like a page 1 rewrite, they're actually asking you to start not in the script again at all. You know, kind of like you were saying, Hilliard, it's like, it's about the characters. It's like about the concept or the outline. It's about, and even if you don't write an outline or whatever, they're asking you to do work before it even is hitting the page. And if I get something like that, after taking a beat, which is great advice, I feel like it's either, I have to think, are they asking me to start from page 1 because what I've made is completely not working, or are they asking me to start from page 1 because they don't like this thing? Because you'll get notes sometimes that are like, I don't want a martial arts comedy. Right. We've had too many of them. And that could be totally valid, but like, that's definitely that one person's opinion. And if you send that script to like the agent who used to be a black belt or whatever, they might be like, this fucking martial arts comedy is exactly what I've always wanted.
Yeah, there is no perfect script. There's perfect scripts for perfect people, for jobs or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the thing where like I wrote, I don't know, you guys are all pretty young, but I wrote this story about Black Wall Street, which is, this pivotal thing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where, the whole town was bombed by the Klan, right? Yeah. And we got it to a huge company. Now this script gets me in any door I want to get to, any door, right? Get it to this huge company. I'm not gonna say what company it is. And they're like, love the script, the writing, blah, 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 blah. What if we didn't focus on the riot? And I'm like, what? What if we just focus on how it became Black Wall Street? And I was like, no, we're not gonna do that. You also have to have your kahunas to say no, even if it's somebody big. And then I said, actually my producing partner said, you can hire us to write that, but this script is about the riot. With her head like this too, look.
Nice.
That's a good producing partner.
Exactly.
Okay, another question. This is from Matt Poole on Facebook. What do you do when someone gives a note saying that there's problems with the structure? once the draft is written, do you consider the individual scenes movable units within your story, or stationary, or a stationary part of the whole?
A script is a puzzle that can be moved around, you know? So yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Megan. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, usually when I have a structure issue, I have to kind of tear it all down.
Yep.
So I will generally go back to individuals. I organize my stories by scene. So I'll go back to individual scene beats. I'll write them all out on index cards or Post-its or whatever. And then I will also start going back to what were other ideas I had. Generally I've found if I need to restructure things, and this also kind of goes back to the page one rewrite thing, the most common issue that I've seen in my own scripts and other people's scripts is that the main character doesn't have a clear goal.
right.
Or what they're trying to do.
They're not active.
They're not active, and you can't tell what they're trying to do or why they would be trying to do it. And that's usually a pain in the butt to fix, but it inevitably means, like, once you figure out that thing, then you'll know which of your scenes still fit into that narrative and what story beats you have to figure out new pieces for. And it's generally, I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about these things in the abstract, but generally you usually need to simplify what your character wants and give it a very just specific, simple, on and off binary goal. And then that'll usually help.
I was just going to say that also what I've found when I'm giving somebody notes and I realize there's a structure problem, it's usually in act one.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the setup,
Yeah.
somewhere that has messed something up.
Yeah.
So somewhere, if it's a feature film, it's in the first 25, 30 pages. And if it's a pilot, it's in the first 10. Somewhere something has messed up that you didn't quite plant, that messed with the way that it's structured throughout the whole thing. And you're playing catch up the rest of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll share this one story really quickly, which really like sort of upped my level as a writer because it was such a learning experience. Is that a friend of mine, Dan Frey, read a script for me and said, you know, it's great. He's like, I was actually turning the pages much quicker than I expected to, but there's a problem with the third act. And I was like, really, what is it? And he said, all of it. And I was like, fuck, because this is a guy that I admire. He's written stuff. He takes stuff to studios. He's got a book that's out. He's doing some amazing stuff right now. And I was like, oh my God. And I did exactly what all of you guys said. I stepped back for a couple of days. I thought about it. I forgot about it. And then I remembered it and I came back to it. And the first thought I had when I reopened up Final Draft to work on it was like, holy shit, he's right. He's so right. Because I had done the cardinal sin of I love my lead character so much. I cannot do the worst thing to her.
Oh God.
But I can do a little bit below the worst.
No.
And then when I just went full on fuck you, and I was just like, I'm like hating typing it, but I'm like, this is so good. This is so mean. And I gave it to people to read, and they were like, fuck, dude, that's so powerful and so funny. It's a comedy. So it's one of those things too, where, you know, I mean, not taking it personally. Q-tip, quit taking it personally. With that, let's move on to our final segment, which is the good, the bad, and the shameless. This is where I ask each one of you to give me those three things. The good, which is suggest something that is a good learning resource for writers. The bad, a common mistake inexperienced writers make. And the shameless, what's a fun thing that you guys are doing to take your mind off of quarantine, or that you use an escape when you're suffering from the dreaded writer's block? How about we start with Jamey first? What is your good?
So, wait. So hold on, let me look. I got some notes here. Oh yeah, learning resources for writers.
She cheated.
That's what we get to do on Zoom.
Or she did her research.
I wrote mine down too, bitches.
So I listened to a ton of podcasts, so that's what came to mind first. When I was like, literally, I had no idea what TV writing was about, and I had never written a spec pilot. The first thing I found was Script Notes, which is general industry and specific to screenwriting. But I also love Children of Tendu, and that's like
Yes, Javi.
that's a perennial favorite. It's two working TV writers who are highly esteemed. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about either of them. It's Javier Grillo Marxwatch and Jose Molina, and they stopped after like the second season, I think. So now it's just this beautiful little. It's like how to be a TV writer. Like episodes, like 30 episodes.
Well, they do them now just for the guild.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, no. So that's an awesome resource. Those two, Script Notes and Children of Tendu. And then as far as books, the first book I ever read about TV writing was Inside the Room, and it's actually like written. It's like edited by. It's like from the UCLA Extension program, and like a beat by beat. This is what happens in television.
Nice. What about your bad? What's your bad? Common mistakes.
Right. Well, I think I already sort of talked about like too much description. But I will also say that another, like, as like a life tip, another mistake that writers make is not creating a compelling life for themselves apart from writing, because it is a long haul. And I also wouldn't put a time limit on it. If you're here to be a TV writer, if that's your life's work, it's going to take a minute, and that's okay. And you need to like have relationships, do it, whatever. You have to go on with your life while you're doing it, because, and it's not only just like for your happiness, it's also so that you don't come off as desperate, because that's the thing that Hollywood hates most. If people can tell you're like, this show has to go or I'm going to die. So that is my, and then as for the shameless, I've like, how am I occupying my time? I've been asked that a few times, and my answer is, you don't have. I have 2 elementary school children, so my problem is not being bored.
Yeah.
There you go. So your answer is have kids.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? If you're gonna do it, now's the time, right?
Right. All right, Mark. How about you? What's your good, bad, and shameless, Mark?
Ooh, I was also going to say podcasts, but Jamey smartly took 2 of the best ones.
You can recommend a third.
Sorry.
There's no rules against that.
Mine is one of the best ones too, bitches. Fuck y'all. Get what y'all say.
Well, and I just subscribed to yours today, so I'm excited to dive into that. So the 3 best writing podcasts have already been mentioned. But I feel like my good, 2 things. One, there's a book called Good in a Room, and it's about pitching stuff. And I feel like you don't realize writing a really amazing thing will get you in the room, whether that's a staffing meeting or whatever, even just to be an assistant somewhere. Like you're just always pitching yourself or your work or something, and knowing how to think about those meetings and not dread them is a really useful skill. And I thought that book did a great job of breaking down what it takes and what people are looking for, and how to sell yourself or your work or whatever without being like really obnoxious about it. And it made me excited about opportunities to pitch, because in truth, any chance you have to pitch is a chance you have to make the thing you want.
Totally. Yeah.
I think my bad would be, I think a mistake that I am often guilty of is like knowing when to keep pushing and when to stop. I think one of an important survival skill, I think, for writers is like being super passionate about something that isn't fully finished yet. Because like, if you don't believe in it to start with, you're never going to finish it.
Right.
But then also, if you're throwing your whole life into just one thing and you're like, this script is going to be the big one. Sometimes if you get big notes, the best answer is to be like, this one's done. Let me just write something else.
Yep.
You're a bottomless well of ideas.
Nice.
That's bad.
And what's your shameless?
I started podcasting with a friend, not about writing, because there's so many great writing podcasts already. But it's called My Favorite Friendship, and it's like true crime. It's like that, but instead of crimes, it's about different friendships. So each episode is just the story of a different friendship from some point in history that hopefully we can learn from to be better friends today.
Nice. Awesome. Megan, tell me you're good, you're bad, you're shameless.
Ooh, okay. Well, I second all the podcast talk. A couple others that are good are,
You mentioned Nerdist Writers Panel.
yeah, writers. Yeah, it's no longer Nerdist. I did Chris Hardwick blow up, I think. But yeah, the Writers Panel with Ben Blacker is great. Also, Happier in Hollywood is
Love them.
Is great. And I also found, this is just this isn't what I was going to say. These weren't my notes. I also found Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes really helpful. Or Nell Scovell's, what's it called? Just the Funny Parts. They're just, as I find as a woman, there aren't that many examples of women in the industry sometimes, and I just find it so. Happier in Hollywood, Year of Yes, and Just the Funny Parts, all great resources if you're a woman and you're trying to know what it would be like for you.
Nice.
And then but the thing I was actually gonna say, get in a writer's group if you can, on the note of feedback. And if you're wondering how you do that, you're watching this thing right now, maybe you're chatting with people online right now. If it seems like you're jiving, suggest maybe exchanging scripts with someone else on the internet or in your community, or however you're connecting with people. All of my first writer's assistant job came from my writer's group. Marc gives me great notes from my writers group. Like all my good things have come from my writers groups.
Nice.
That's too many good things, but we need more good things in the world. So I think it's fine. My bad.
Yeah.
A mistake that I see a lot is when you are giving notes, and I think, continuing the theme, a good way to practice getting notes is to practice giving notes, because it'll make you understand how it's working.
Yep.
It's been touched on a little, but don't pitch a problem, only pitch solutions. That's good for note giving, but especially if you're ever in a writer's room, you don't want to be the asshole who's just saying things don't work. If something's
Megan, that's good for life. That's just good for life.
Just like, if you don't have a fix, shut up. It's not going to be helpful.
Someone explained it so well the other day. They were like, you'd never pitch someone the idea for a joke. You'd never be like, I bet there's something funny about that wall. I bet we could do something with that.
Yeah.
Like, you always have to say the punchline. So like,
I have heard people pitch ideas for jokes, but it's definitely more impressive when you can pitch the average joke.
All right, finish strong with your shameless.
And my shameless is RuPaul's Drag Race. I can't get enough.
You would.
I just started, to keep on the theme of podcasts, I just started listening to Race Chaser, which has given me a great excuse to rewatch all of RuPaul's Drag Race. I'd say it's about 30 to 40% of my waking hours during the quarantine, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Nice. All right, Hilliard, give it to us. What's your good, your bad, and your shameless? I feel a podcast coming on.
Oh yeah, well the good is I'll give you some other podcast resources, because I listen to a ton of podcasts. I'm one of those guys, by the way, I wake up in the morning and after I jump out of the shower, I turn on a podcast. That's just
I turn on the podcast while I'm in the shower. I do.
I can't hear it enough. I want to hear it clearly. Anyway, so I'm gonna give you guys some other ones. The Hollywood Breakdown, I love.
That's
The
it.
Business. So some people don't have time to read the trades, but you get it all there, right?
Mhm.
On the page, my girl Pilar Alessandra, I have to shout out her. Paper Team, Nick and Alex, gotta pump them. They are basically, for the younger writers, they are John and August to the T, right? So you guys gotta take out Paper Team. And then for a lot of the writers of color, Diverse Representation is not a podcast, but they actually have it in my show notes on my podcast, which is Screenwriters Rant Room. They have a whole list of Black agents, managers, lawyers, and PR reps. So
Nice.
stuff like that is on there. So that's the good. What's next? Bad?
What's the bad?
Oh shit! I got about 10 bads, but I'm gonna try to figure out which one I'm just gonna throw one out. People
Pick the
always-
worst.
People always want me to minty them. Always. And partly it's my fault. What I do on my show, I say it a lot. You guys want to come hang? This is when we didn't have the Rona, is what the Black people call it. When we didn't have the Rona, I do the podcast and I invite people, hey, you guys want to come hang out? Come watch us while we do this live. Because my show is, the Rant Room is it's like the writer's room. We like to treat it like that. That first hour when you're in the room and everybody's going crazy, having a ball, talking about whatever the shit's going on, and then we jump into the topic, right? So, so I have tons of young writers who come and they're like, hey, won't you mentor me? And I'm like, that's not how you mentor people. I said, you know how you could help me? They said, what? I says, I just dropped my pen, you didn't pick it up. Now, I'm not telling you to be an asshole or that I'm being an asshole to you. What I'm saying is make yourself useful, right? You saw me sitting there with my showrunner guests on my show, and you never got up to offer them drinks. I want that person who I don't have to tell anything to. You know what I mean? So those are the type of things. I don't ask me to mentor you. Come show me. You know what I mean? That's what I'm looking for.
Got it. So what's your shameless? What's your escape?
Well, I honestly, since this went on, I've had one day off. I'm sitting here in my office now. I'm on the lot here in West Hollywood. I'm next to OWN Network, and I got too many projects going on that have to be done. By the time this thing is over, so they got to be written. They got to be pitched. They got to be. So I've had one day off since it's Monday. I'll be here. It's a holiday. I'm like, it's just another day to me. You know what I mean? So my hustle is strong, but I told you about my mod punk rock world that I grew up in. So I have 6 vintage scooters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also drive the Starsky and Hutch car, right?
Ah,
It's my daily car.
nice.
And so I pick which scooter I want to drive and I ride my scooter here. So it makes me feel like I'm 15 again. You know what I mean? So that's my release,
And on the side, you've got a moment to be Huggy Bear too.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you see it.
Ah,
Damn.
nice.
Yeah, buddy.
Nice.
Anyway.
Right on.
That's the original in the box too.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, that is our show.
Am I forgetting one?
I want to, yay, my pleasure. I want to say thanks to a few people really quick. David Zimmerman from Performing Arts Studio West. He has
David.
a show
What's up,
called,
David?
you know him?
Mhm.
He's good people.
I know him from San
he's-
Francisco. We used to do theater.
There you go. He does a show now called Meet the Biz that you can find on YouTube, where he does different interviews. He had me on his show this week. It turned into a 2-parter, so that's awesome. Also want to say thank you to Joita Gupta from AMI in Canada. She had me on her podcast, The Pulse, where I was able to talk about this show and some other inclusive topics. I want to thank David Radcliffe for introducing me to Jamey and Marc so you guys could be here today. And last but not least, I want to thank the panel, Hilliard Guess, Jamey Perry, Meghan Pleticha, and Marc Muszynski. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Be
guys.
well, have a fantastic weekend. And everybody else out there, keep writing. Be well. Cheers. Oh, and thank you, Mona Jean. Yay,
Yes,
Mona
yes,
Jean.
you rocked it. You rocked it.